right, we're here. Welcome, Marco.
Hey, thank you, Endo. Thank you for inviting me again.
No, this is your show. I'm just here for the ride. So, we are here on, I don't know, can you tell me how far away we are from your DLC dropping?
Yeah, we don't have a precise release date yet. Hopefully, it's gonna be later this month, probably at worst, first or second week of April. But I really believe we can complete it by the end of this month. Yeah.
Okay. So, I grabbed some stuff off the Discord so we can look at some new things that you did or are working on. And I guess we can talk about the big thing after that, which is scripting. So we'll wait for that. But let's get through the a few things that you have that are new. So I'm just gonna show some air files, uh, all your nice airplanes. So how many planes are you gonna have in the DLC?
I don't remember exactly how many, but like five or six, or maybe even seven. Actually, some of these are gonna be in the base game. Some already have been updated in the last update last week on the base game because they're gonna be very useful for other campaigns. That's because Sino-Japanese war basically is Japan against China. So Japan participated in the war against the United States. So some of those planes are gonna be a handful for the Pacific Front against the US and maybe even the British in future. And for China, many of the weaponry they received were like given from the West. And not only from the West, actually. So those can be very handful for basically the war in Europe as well. Meaning that we are trying to use whatever we have, like these planes shown here, which is a Soviet planes, not just for this DLC, possibly, but also for the base game. So the DLC is gonna add actually only few of these planes as a DLC locked one, but in general, we are taking this as a chance to add many planes, both for the DLC and also for the base game.
Oh, okay. So are you making any changes to like how air works or anything like that with this upcoming DLC, or is it just gonna be the same?
This is actually something we were speaking in the team a couple days ago. Surely, since we are adding many planes than usual, it can be a good thing to improve a little bit air combat. We actually worked a bit on plane combat around a month ago to improve a little bit landing, stalling, and stuff like that. And we already got some interesting improvements, I have to say. And as we spoke the other time, this could even be a good moment to start maybe thinking about other kind of fighting in the sky, like heavy bombers, which is not something we haven't started working on yet, but it's something that I always wanted to make, and I never had the time. But I feel like after this DLC and after scripting system and other stuff we are gonna talk about, this might be the time to actually focus a little bit more on these bombers and fights in the sky in general.
Okay, very cool. So is there anything else you want to say about planes before we move on to uniforms?
So there's one plane that we haven't announced at all, which is a last time addition. We have many new Japanese planes for this DLC, like this biplane shown here, or the new KI planes. We already had the famous A6M0 plane, but one plane that is quite important to have both for this DLC and for basically the later states of the war is the A5M, which probably we're gonna show something tomorrow in the Discord channel. And this is the very first time, basically, we announced the fact that we are working on this. So yes, this is another little thing to say.
Okay, cool. Excuse me. Let's move on to uniforms. I don't think there's too many uniform updates, but I just grabbed what I saw, and it looks like some new German outfits.
So yeah, in the last weeks, we actually in the last month, but we finalized most of the stuff in the last week. We reworked entirely the German infantry uniforms, both from North Africa but also for Europe. We made them for scratch. We added a ton of variants, especially for the gear. We made sure to have the correct variant for each period of the war. for its front, and in some occasions even for the correct kind of battalion that its mission is delivering. The only thing that is left to do before we move to the next set of uniforms we want to do is the full scheme Jager, I think that's how you pronounce it, uniforms. So the airborne units, the German airborne units. Right now we have only one German paratrooper uniform in game with some vest variants for it. But now we are gonna add several variants of it to be historically correct for North Africa, Anzio, Normandy, Stalingrad, because just like infantry uniforms, the airborne uniforms also had variants and changes during the war, and of course do it to the different environments and campaigns. So more than a rework, this is also an occasion to expand and add more variation and correct historical correctness to those uniforms. So we are developing some of those. And then finally we move to the next set, which is going to be Italian uniforms, which currently is a very small set and really scream for a big rework, in my opinion, and from, of course, what players told us in the Discord channel.
So speaking of like Italians, like how many factions do you plan on adding? Do you have like an idea of how many more new ones you want to add?
Well, of course, we are adding China, which is a completely new faction for the DLC. This might this might not sound interesting for people that are not used to learn and see content about China in game, but actually this is gonna be a DLC that is gonna add a ton of new stuff for China. Just the uniform is gonna be a crazy amount of vest and clothing in general. Also, as mentioned before, as China was armed by Western countries, it's gonna be a very interesting topic to see new Western weapons that were used in China. So the DLC is gonna be an occasion to add stuff related to China, but that can easily be used in other campaigns as well. So map makers are gonna be very happy, I hope. We don't have precise plans to faction that we are gonna add after. We have some ideas about some little reworks we want to do in base game campaigns, like Enzi and Quadzine are most likely gonna be completely redone, but that doesn't involve adding new factions. While for the next bigger campaigns, which might add new factions if it's gonna be, it's gonna require them. Well, we don't have a clear idea yet. We'll probably run, as always, some polls on the Discord server where we are gonna choose that with the community. So other than China, we don't have real plans at the moment.
Okay, question for you. Who does all your clothing modeling?
We have a new guy doing that. He didn't want to expose too much in the server, so I don't want to, reveal the nickname he uses. But we often call him Rico in our private server. But this is a name we use all together, so I'm not exposing him saying like that.
Okay.
But it is a guy from basically Asia. So maybe someone met him in the Discord and doesn't know that he's making the uniforms. I guess if he want to reveal himself at some point, he will be able to do it.
Okay. So if you're enjoying the uniforms, guys, and you're in the Discord, just say that you love the uniforms so he knows that you like his work. It's always nice to hear, right?
Yeah, I think I want to say something to show some appreciation here, but Rico is super good, not just at making uniforms, but at making sure that they are extremely correct, especially because he's World War II reenactor, specifically, I think a Japanese World War II reenactor, but not only. So he knows very much well what he's doing and every little detail, because he owns some uniforms, replicas, and even some other kind of stuff like rifles from World War II, and he really pays a lot of attention to that aspect because it's a passion of himself.
Okay, cool. All right. All right, so this next section is called equipment, I guess, but it has some of the newer tanks and I think some placements that you're working on. So how far are you along with all the equipment for the DLC? Is it all done?
We have, yes, we are, all the vehicles, except for one, are done. Some of them, the tester already played with them. Most of them have been, if not all of them, actually, yes, all of them have been already shown in the work in progress channel, like the vehicle being shown right now, the Vickers Crossley. This is another one, the SDK 222, and these two are indeed the only ones that the current DLC tester haven't been using yet. All the other vehicles we were planning are not just ready, but they are in missions, and tester already made sure to double check them and give us feedback. I think it's around 10 vehicles in total being added, and just like the planes, most of these vehicles, including these last two shown vehicle, are gonna be very useful not just for the DLC but other base game campaigns. So again, really think this is gonna be very precious content in general for the game, not just for the DLC.
What about the radios?
What you're showing?
Yeah.
So in game, we didn't really put a lot of dedication into portable radios, and thanks to Rico for sure, but not only, because Kevin is helping with the radio as well. Kevin, which usually makes buildings. Well, thanks to those great team members, we are now remaking the radios backpacks for the infantry to have more correct setup of basically the uniforms and the radios that the radioman specifically brings to the battlefields.
Oh, so
Those are gonna be part of the clothing.
Oh, those radios go on their backs?
Some are gonna be in the backs, like backpacks. Some are gonna be like bags on the side. But yeah, those are gonna be part of not just. I mean, they're mostly made to be part of uniforms. Again, radios for the radioman to bring in the battle.
Okay.
But of course, we are gonna also make prop variants of it.
Okay, because some of those look kind of big, like they belong on the ground or something on a table.
Yeah, they are very big and heavy, but still, those are all based to real radios that are meant to be brought to the battlefield. So it's actually all accurate models that make sense to have in the battlefield, even more than the ones that we currently have. So this rework is gonna improve the historical accuracy of this kind of radios, actually.
Oh, you know what? It just reminded me of something that I think hasn't been changed yet. That kind of drives me crazy. Can I bug you?
Of course.
Binoculars for setting points where to do artillery?
Yeah. No, I agree completely. This is something that I've been thinking a lot, and people have been asking a lot. I think those are very iconic things to have in a World War II video game. I'm sure it's gonna be sometimes when finally they're gonna have their role inside the game.
And here's a question for you. Since we're already kind of on equipment, tanks. I'm confused on the what's the guy, the commander? Does he have a name? I forgot. Is it?
Yeah, tank commander. Yes.
Yeah, that's all. Okay. The game doesn't really let you like point out and make them attack a certain target, does it? I feel like I
No,
don't.
currently, no, yeah. Yeah, right. Currently, it doesn't. That's basically a feature that I would say was born very rough and had little, but I'd say constant improvements. At the beginning, they almost had no use, but with improvements made even during last year, we added features to tanks and tank commanders, like being able to enable or disable automatic behaviors of AI in tanks, like leaving AI driver to drive the tanks. So for example, now tank leaders can give some sort of orders, like if you give a move order to a tank and you disable the manual driving of the tank and you leave the AI to drive the tank, you can actually play in a bit more immersive way, where you just say your crew where you want to move and you rely on the AI to move where you want. And you can also pinpoint enemies, not to force, at least at the moment, the gunner to shoot where you want, though it's I believe it's gonna be a very important feature to add at some point. But at least you can spot the enemies, and the gunner will automatically decide what to shoot, who to shoot, basically. But surely, if you pinpoint the enemies, that's gonna help him a bit with the priority and targeting. But surely, I do agree that forcing the gunner to shoot a specific point by marking it, it's a feature that have to come as well. Basically, the tank commanding system was not very deeply developed to leave space to other things that I felt were more important, but is there because I want it to exist and to be improved with the time as well.
Oh, good. I just thought I was doing it wrong. That's why I was asking. Okay.
I think you know then how to use it. It's just a bit too basic,
Okay.
but it's gonna be improved.
All right. So we have weapons now. You've been adding a lot of weapons. How many weapons are you adding for the DLC? Do you know?
I don't have any number of how many stuff we are adding, but we are showing some of them. Actually, some of the most interesting ones. And just like the vehicles, many of those are gonna be very, very much useful for other campaigns as well. Because again, it's mostly weaponry that were sold to China by other factions. Some of them comes from Czechoslovakia, some are German ones. Like this one is, if I remember correctly, is Czechoslovakian. The CB26, if I remember correctly. This is a modified, very interesting modified BAR. Looks like a more modern bar, almost out of steampunk video game. I love it. If I remember, it's from Switzerland. So yeah, there's a lot of like 5 to 10, something like that, new weapons that are gonna be added, and they are most likely gonna be used not just in China, or at least are gonna have variants that make sense to be not just in China, but also in other campaigns for future base game missions, or some base game mission we already have will receive updates to include them.
Okay, cool. All right. I got the reloading videos. Let's check that out. So I got a little handgun here.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So this one is a weapon we already have in game. We tend to leave some good space to reworking animations, and sometimes we do it multiple times. Like I believe these 1911 pistols you were showing a second ago was reworked at least other 1 or 2 other times. But when Johnson learns new techniques and improve his skills, he tends to suggest to rework again some stuff,
Wait.
and I completely agree.
Shout out his name. Who is the guy that does all this work?
Ian is our animator, great guy. Basically, he's the guy that did all of, or at like 95% of the animations we currently have in game, especially for first person. Previously, I was doing animations, but like a couple years ago, he joined the team. He comes from Fallout New Vegas modding community.
Oh,
And he joined the team because he really thought he could do a much better work than me on doing animations, and it was completely correct, because I'm not an animator. But back then I didn't have. I was starting to have a little bit more budget to invest into other people helping me. And since he joined the team, I think the animations in game have skyrocketed in quality. And in the last 2 years, he also, as I was saying, improved his techniques a bit. So he wanted to rework, in particular, this American pistol. Here there are some stuff that are shown that are, for example, new system he has, like all this camera shaking that happens when the weapon reloads. Until not much time ago, that was something that I had to basically do by hand in game to add some basically camera shake when playing some specific animations. It is of course optional and can be disabled. But anyway, previously I was doing it, but he insisted to basically be able to do that. So we developed a system basically modifying the code of the game to allow him to also work into animations for the camera. So this new pistol animation is not just an improved animation overall, but just like all the new animations he's working on, features this little camera bounce, optional camera bounce, that is played along with the reloads animations.
Yeah, I like that machine gun animation or whatever it is, that big machine gun. Like the guy is really trying to like load it. You can see him like push hard. It comes up next after this one, I think.
Um, Yes, yes. I think that's actually a very interesting machine guns because now that you are showing me the animations, it reminds me that that machine guns is gonna be another machine gun that features a very rare um, trick of the game, which is the barrel change system. So in World War II, most machine guns allowed to change the barrel on the field in case it was exactly this animation, in case it was overheated or damaged. If I understood correctly, Chinese soldiers were equipped with one extra barrel to alternate with the barrel they had in the weapon. So if you take that weapon and you shoot multiple magazines together without never resting, at some point you're gonna have to swap their barrel in game, and that's gonna be the animation that is played. And yes, Johnson really did a great job showing how tight is the barrel to remove, because of course it's something that you want to be fixed as much as possible on your weapon during fights, and needs really to resist the combat situations. So when you have to change it, you really have to screw it with a lot of force.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't even notice that you have like lots of little details like partial reloading and stuff like that of like Car 98s where you can pop in another bullet separately from a clip, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
Yes, we were trying to really work a lot into this kind of little details. I feel like it's a good thing to add immersion, to add all those stuff, but making them easy to handle, like being as automatic as possible, like even the barrel change. It's not like you have to learn or keep track of it too much. It's pretty much an automatic system that happens when necessary if you really shoot a lot. So it adds details without adding too much information to the player to learn in order to make those system happen.
Okay, I'm about to cause trouble again. Are you ready for me to cause trouble?
Of course.
Okay. So something that's been probably talked about a lot in the Discord and forum and stuff like that. I always wondered, like, if I were on a battlefield and I was getting shot at and I was scared, I think I would dive down a little faster than the game allows you to out of fear. And it seems to be very slow for like going into a prone position when you're being shot
Hmm.
at.
Okay.
And I know
So,
that, yeah, there's been a lot
mhm.
of arguments about that, but I just wondered what your take on it was.
Um, I don't have a clear opinion on this. I definitely tend to make something that feels something like makes sense, is enjoyable. Surely I listen these people on the Discord opinion on this, and when I say enjoyable, I mean I of course don't want people in the game to always crawl on the ground. I want to have a good mix of different positions, different combo positions in game. Um, though it's something that can definitely be changed any moment, especially if there is a good idea,
What?
a good suggestion,
Okay,
or if it makes historically sense.
can I make a good suggestion?
Yeah, you
Okay,
can try for
I've
sure.
never seen this before. Maybe I have. Maybe it's something real. But it seems like there would be like a panic prone where like maybe you could throw yourself on the ground as a different key than a regular prone. And maybe if you did that, you would be disoriented for a bit from doing it. But at least you could get your body into cover fast.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Like, uh, like the what Call of Duty did with jump into crawl position, something like that.
Well, not
You
like a
mean?
dolphin dive, but like what happens a
Okay.
lot is like you'll be on the under fire, and like I figure if you were really in that thing, you'd want to get down on the ground really quick. But in the game, it's like like there's a slow progress to get
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
ground.
yeah.
But if you had
Okay.
like
Yes.
a alternate like get down
Yeah.
quick, but then you can't
Mm.
fire your gun right away because you just threw yourself down hard.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it definitely makes sense actually. Yeah. game tends to make soldier, slow and feels heavy as much as possible to feel realistic. But of course, like if you feel like you can die any moment by being shot, I'm sure it makes sense, of course, to just throw yourself on the ground, even if you risk to to hurt yourself or break your equipment. So actually, that's something that can be interesting to add to the game at some point, I believe.
Yeah, you're gonna write it down.
I brought in my head like 99% of the suggestions.
Okay.
Usually,
Okay. We're moving on to. There's a few pictures from last week, or last month. Environments, buildings. I grabbed the new pictures of the environments for the DLC, which are beautiful. And who is your map maker?
Tyler is our map maker from Texas. Great guy. He really spent much more time than usual working into maps the last 2 months, and it really paid off because he ended up doing an amazing work. He's making maps for the game since a couple years as well, I believe, or maybe even more. This is another thing that I was doing before, but since I let him doing this kind of work, it does not only help making them much faster, but also much better, much more accurate. Great guy, and like another little step up for the game. It's really a clear improvement over the previous maps we were having, especially the maps I were making years ago, where I had to do a lot of stuff, too much stuff than I could handle. But also, time ago the budget was what it was. Now that we can spend a little bit more and we can delegate all these new topics to all the team members, we can do better stuff, dedicate more time, have the right people to do the right job, and Tyler is exactly the right people to do map making.
All right. So, are there? I mean, you haven't shown too many things about like the maps and stuff. So, how many? Is there just one giant map, and then you just
It's
got different?
two,
Oh, go ahead.
it's two maps. One for the Shanghai area, which is the ones we showed so far, like in this screenshot you are passing. But also we showed a little bit on TikTok and Instagram in a couple of reels. Not just the map, but the DLC in general. Um, we are also gonna have Nanking, which was the Chinese capital back then. It's gonna be a smaller map. I believe a little less missions, because Shanghai is gonna have 15 missions, and Nanking I think 5, or very a little less missions. But both together are gonna give a kind of good alternate between two very different environments. It's I really, we're still finishing Nanking. Actually, it's the only thing we are left to do in map making wise, and I have to say that so far it really feels like a completely different map, even if it's both China, both the same DLC. Still having two maps is helping us differentiating and feel like you are really in two different places far from each other.
Very cool. All right, so let's go to the roadmap and see what you updated, and then we want to do. I think I have the teaser. I think most people have seen it if they're on Instagram, but maybe some people haven't seen it. So I've got the teaser, and I added new music. So if you hate the music, that's my fault. And let's go to the roadmap real quick here. All right, so here's the roadmap. Let's blow it up a bit. What have we updated on the roadmap?
Okay, so let's see. We did a bit of improvements over last month. Mostly we have, well, surely the thing that we announced before, which is the scripting system being added to the game. Whenever it's time to speak about that, there can be a lot that can be said. But generally, so far, I can say at the moment I can say that we added this completely new system, which is, I'd say, halfway there. But since it was added in 1 month, I would say it's a good result, especially because once complete, it's gonna allow hopefully to make completely new game modes, not just for vanilla missions, but
Okay,
also
okay, stop
for.
there. Stop there. We'll talk about scripting. I've got some stuff that we want to show. So,
Mm-hmm.
what else besides scripting?
Sorry.
What else besides scripting got done?
What else? Well, other than scripting, we progressed with Sino-Japanese DLC. We are very close to release it. Here we says 90% done. It's hard to estimate, but really it's a matter of like 2 or 3 weeks, and I believe it's gonna be ready. Not maybe ready to be exact release. Might need a few extra days, but ready to be finalized, the test, and prepared to release. Then we have, let's see, we did some quite good improvements in Gore system. It's something that we actually attempted to do for the entirety of the last year, but we have a bit of troubles doing a better Gore system because our game features a lot of uniforms and they can mix up with different gears, so we can't do as much most game does by basically bashing the destruction of body parts into variants of the same uniforms, because there are too many uniforms that can mix with too many other uniforms, and there's a lot of performance to be taken into consideration. So after a long time, we ended up finding a decent solution that is not like what exactly we want to bring about Gore. So it's not like completely the final Gore system I intend to have, but at least is a decent improvement, because, for example, now Gore is expanded to the legs, which was only to the arms before, and it's a little bit better in general. Of course, this is something that can be completely disabled, is completely optional. So if someone doesn't want to have too much brutality inside the game, can be disabled. But for the ones that were asking it out loud for a long time, I hope this welcomed improvement. Of course, we are going on with uniforms. There's a bunch of stuff that here are set to be basically never-ending task, or stuff that we want to keep improving always, and little improvements are here and there. Something that can't basically easily be wrote down how what was the state here in the roadmap, but had some progress, is the PlayStation release. Last time we spoke, the PlayStation release was already done and ready, but sorry. Okay, no problem. So the PlayStation release got some progress because Sony asked us to do some changes, basically, and we did those changes. I think they asked some extra changes a couple times during last month, but finally, I think we are in a state where they are very close to approve the build. It's really working. I literally have a build open right now here in my office just to test the stability. It's like running science yesterday, I believe, just to make sure it never crash, never had issues or stuff like that. It's really fully playable, just really waiting for Sony to approve this. We're gonna send this new build to them tomorrow, so I don't know, maybe hopefully this week, this upcoming week, they're gonna give us some more details about that.
Oh, that's exciting. So,
Uh,
question about the PlayStation and console releases. Do you have to like do different map levels, or is the game running the same on all of them, like with the same amount of buildings and everything?
no, it's the game is the same. Of course, the quality settings are tweaked depending on the hardware. Nintendo Switch is the one that cuts graphics the most, but then we have PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, while PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series does some cuts, mostly to bring a very stable 60 and plus FPS, but it's very comparable to PC graphics in the latest generation of consoles.
All right, so
But
you don't
map-wise is basically the same thing.
yeah, so you don't have to build the maps more than once, which is nice, right?
No, it would be impossible for us to develop basically two different games at the same time. We can barely. This game is super ambitious. We can barely do one game, and without becoming crazy. Doing two games at the moment would be really impossible, or even just two variants of the game, the same game. We try to make the game stable and lightweight enough to run on every hardware, because that is gonna be a good benchmark, not just to have less work to do, but also to allow people with a little bit older PCs to run the game if the game is optimized enough to run even on a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. All right. So if you guys have a PlayStation 5, it's going to be available, what would you say, by next month?
I can't really estimate this. It might be literally like in 2 weeks or never. I mean, it's
Okay.
most likely gonna be in 1 month or 2 months or I don't know, a couple of weeks. Really hard to say. It depends. If Sony approved this build, it can be there in 2 weeks. If Sony has more changes to do, the only thing we can do is doing changes. Unfortunately, Sony doesn't and can't physically tell us exactly all the stuff they want us to change, and they're gonna check the build every time. And the first thing that comes into their mind, and they feel like they don't respect their rules, their guidelines, basically,
Yeah.
they're gonna tell us. But
Hmm.
if there are more guidelines they want us, to follow, they might tell us in the next attempt. I believe we are respecting everything as they require,
Yeah.
but some of those guidelines can be a bit interpreted. So what they want basically from us is to make the best possible games that is stable, that has the best possible community management, that is safe for our players, that has the best possible parental control settings and all this kind of stuff, basically.
So
So
out of curiosity, how do you or how do you get feedback from console players? Do you get feedback from console players? Do you just get like reviews? What do you get from
So
consoles?
it's of course easier to get feedbacks from PC players, mostly because those people can have easier access to Discord on the very same device where they play, and because Steam has a strong community system. While, for example, Xbox barely have a review system on their console, for example, or Nintendo Switch, I believe it doesn't have at all. But what we did is to, well, first offer dedicated console channels on our Discord where players can specifically talk about consoles, and I feel like a good 20% of our Discord users comes from consoles, so it's a decent pool of people to get feedbacks from them. We got some beta players, in particular for Xbox, that can receive the build a little bit earlier and test them just to make sure there are no bugs or unexpected problems before the update get released on Xbox. And I tend to give a lot of priority to emails. Most console players tends to write me on emails, or at least most emails I received are usually from console players. So there's also basically that channel where people can get in contact. Usually, email is very good to, of course, ask super request more than suggestion or other stuff because of the slow communication. So in general, I still suggest to actually use Discord whenever someone has the time and the will to register to that social and use it.
Okay. Um, so we is there anything else on this update you want to talk about, or should we hit scripting?
Well, I think we can go on. Most of the stuff, yeah, is very little improvement. So this kind of roadmaps takes like 8 to 10 months to be completed. So while there are some little things that have been improved, little progress, definitely the bigger one here is scripting. So I think we can move into it.
All right, here we go. So there's a little web page loading. Well, it sort of loads. It's kind of got a weird background. It's invisible for some reason, so it's using my background, which is weird. But
Okay.
there is a web page for the scripting setup, and go ahead, Marco. And this is like a big deal, so I'm gonna let you just go into it.
Okay, let's see how I can explain this. Well, first it's very very interesting. The bug with the background is the bug with my website or what? Ah, okay, okay, okay. I see. So, okay, much better. So yes, what is scripting? Basically, it's a new system that we are adding. So we are letting player write. Sorry? I can. Okay, okay. Um, okay. So, so people are not hearing you, Indo. Okay, okay. Well, in case Endo can't be heard, I want to tell to the people. Well, Endo is here. He's still in the live chat. I guess you can just hear him. Anyway.
Let me grab my mic. Wait, one second. What happened, I
Okay.
think, is I didn't grab like that was like last night I added that page, and I don't think I added the voice.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there we are. I
Okay.
need my face. So we get to appear there.
Yeah. Oh, you can not show the full website if you want.
Oh,
It's
it's
not
okay. It's
important.
okay.
Anyway, I'm going on with basically explaining this. So, scripting system is a very important thing that we're trying to do because basically it's gonna be a way to implement mostly two features. One, it's basically possibility to make new game mods. The second is possibility to make customized AI behaviors. Probably scripting system can be used to do more. It can be used for smaller features, like I don't know, even just adding ambient sounds, or other customized little things to missions. But the big goal of this is definitely completely new systems and game mods. So with scripting, someone can use the the mission editor as usual, and add some code to plan some specific behaviors of missions and AI. Potentially, can really let people to do anything. It's gonna be not sure if as freely open as Armatre mod scripting system, because I don't know that. I don't know Armatre scripting system that much, but we are trying to do something similar. So the goal is to make something easy to access using LUA scripting code, basically, but that can allow player to interact with base game features. So a player don't have to, for example, write down and script how to make a soldier move through the battlefield, but he can, through a simple LUA API, for example, ask to a soldier to move to a specific position via code, and for example, code specific AI behavior, specific AI
So
movement or brain.
what would I type here for AI script? What's a good example?
Okay, so what you are showing here is it's a little generator for scripting that helps people writing down scripts. So this takes the documentation we have, learn from it basically, and use it in order to automatize scripting. You can, for example, write here that you want your AI to do some specific behavior. For example, you might want to say that you want, I don't know, your AI to try to reach the position of the player, not shooting, just ignoring the shooting. I don't know, come close to you, and when it's close to the player, explode. I don't know. This reminds me of
Can I hide
what's
behind
the name
like
of the
cover?
game? You can, yes, you can tell them to hide
I'm like
behind
making
cover, of
stuff
course.
up here. Does this work? This is exciting if it works.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell the soldiers to move to positions, to do some stuff. You can tell them to target some units or not to target
Okay.
units at all. I mean, there's a lot of things that they can't do yet.
Okay, so what do I
Like half of this,
click here? Try
yes.
generate script here or generate request for external AI?
Let's see. AI hands down player quietly, hide behind cover, edit follows player. You can write it as it is. I think the system will already understand. Of course, someone can do this thing completely by hand,
Yeah.
but this generator can help you making a script, at least a template, if not a working things already. You can use try generate script here if you want to use my system, which can take 2 minutes to do this thing, or you can generate the request for external AI chatbots, which means that it's gonna make a long text that you can copy and paste on other AIs like ChatGPT
Okay.
in order to use the AI you prefer. But the beta one basically try to do that without having you to do this extra step. But it's much slower because it's using basically freely available AI APIs because it would be a bit expensive for me to, at least at the moment, connect it to complex, for example, ChatGPT APIs, which are quite expensive. But usually it gives a good result, just takes a little bit more time. And in general, more than a system to make scripting, this is, a little AI system that help people making templates or at least learning how to script faster, because it makes, if not always perfectly working code, at least it makes code that is properly made and uses the EasyRed2 scripting API correctly. In fact, yeah, tell me, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna post the link to the guide here in the description because I think I left it off. So I'm gonna put it right at the top there if you want to check it out. There's actually a ton of different functions. Are they called functions or methods? What are they called?
It's the same, I guess. I mean, I don't know exactly how you call stuff in LUA, but yeah, it's functions, I'd say. Oh, here's the result.
Okay.
We have the little generated scripts. I can try to translate it into human language a bit.
Oh, let me see.
So,
okay, so I saved in the description. If you guys want to go check it out, because there's a ton of options you have for controlling AI and spawning things and everything. Oh, I can't scroll down on this thing. Let's see, cover, search radius.
Strange that you can scroll down, but yes.
Yeah, I can't scroll
down. Well, anyway, here you can. Let me see how if this can work, because I mean I should be able to look at it and see. So yes, at the beginning you have some variables. So the AI is trained to basically write the code in a way that is easily editable. So it puts all the input parameters on the top. So here you have a search radius. Basically, the AI is probably trying to write to let the player customize the radius for searching some cover. Then you have some update interval. Probably this helps with performance. This is something that the AI is trained to do in order to. The AI is really trained to take into account the performance of scripting. Is something that try to always account when generating stuff. Max hunt distance is probably distance before start shooting the player, I guess. We'll see in the next lines. So then it takes the soldier, a reference to it, and it takes a reference to the AI parameters. Then it basically stop checking for enemies, meaning that it's not gonna stop and shoot enemies, and it's not gonna follow squad orders. Also, other AIs are not gonna target it. Interesting. And generally, basically, this is a setup to, I believe, that the AI is trying to do in order to control the AI by the next lines of code. And basically, it's when you write code for an AI, you can decide to leave some functionalities enabled and write over that. But here is trying to remove some important functionalities, basically because probably the script below is gonna take care of that by the code added. So then he forced the AI to go in crouch pose and to go into covert movement system. So walking stealthy, staying basically not crawling, but staying crouch, walking, not standing, not rolling, the face in the middle.
Yeah.
Then let's see the last lines there. Basically, I believe I can't read below, but I assume that simply the code there is saying the AI to go to the position of the player, and probably is gonna use the max hunt distance to decide whenever get back into combat situation when it's closer to the max hunt distance. So when it's closer to 150 meters, probably the AI with this code is gonna start shooting the player and going into a cover just like you asked him. But before, when it's more far than 150 meters, the AI is just gonna move stealthy and trying to approach the player. I believe this is what the code does, from what I can see here at least.
All right. Okay. I'll shut up again if you want to talk more about stuff.
Yes, so I can finalize to explain basically the scripting system. So the idea for the vanilla game, but other people can do other stuff, of course. And there's already some scripter that did some interesting stuff. But what we're gonna mostly use this for the vanilla game is to make game mods, or to edit our missions to add new game mods and new objectives, like having to destroy a specific vehicle in order to progress. For example, we have the paratrooper missions in Normandy that currently is, as always, just a matter of capturing some areas. But just like the real missions, it would be cool if when you parachute behind enemy lines during the night before the day, your first objective would be like destroying some artilleries. That is easily doable, probably can already be done with the API currently available. Though before adding scripting to custom missions, we really want to finalize the system and add all all the possible features in order to have a system with the maximum potential. But I've seen people already doing team deathmatch. I've seen someone doing capture the flag. I've really seen some people doing some basic systems already with the scripting we have. And it's very fascinating in my opinion. I believe if we do it right, this is gonna address a big thing that people have been starting complaining recently, which is the game starting to get a bit repetitive, because when you have 100 missions all built over the same system, I can understand how it can be repetitive at some point. But with this system, there's gonna be no kind of limit on this regard, and the game could really present missions that are completely different one from another. So I'm very, very hyped into doing this. It's something I've wanted to do a couple years ago already, but I didn't have the time or even the technology to develop it. But now that the team is bigger and there are people in the team that take care of specific stuff, I end up having a little bit more time to develop bigger features sometimes.
Yeah.
And was the time to work into this.
So, like, you could do some really neat stuff, like if the player decides to do a certain objective, then they get maybe different types of reinforcements or something like that. Or if the player's doing really well, then the enemy calls in paratroopers or something, stuff like that, right?
You can completely do that, yes.
Oh, that's-
Most of these things you mentioned, if not all, could be technically done already. Might not be an extremely simple script to do, reinforcement based missions, but is completely doable. I mean, in some ways. One thing that basically is left to be added in order to make this scripting system actually super well working is basically scripting 3D markers. Like right now, you can spawn AI, spawn vehicles, wait for an AI to be dead or a vehicle to be destroyed, handle inventories, handle really a lot of stuff. But what you can't do at the moment is to make 3D markers to clearly show where's the mission objectives around, the custom mission objectives around. So once that is done, I believe most of the important tools in order to really build our missions are there. But right now, basically, you can do a lot of stuff, but you don't have the power to indicate easily to the player what he have to do, what he has to do in these custom game mods. So yes,
So-
before really the system can do some important stuff, this is the next step to realize.
Is it possible to do something like have like a soldier standing in some area and then you walk up to him and have him like put text on the screen of what he's saying or anything like that?
Yes, that's possible. You can check if a player or a soldier is close to another, and you can print some text on the screen. You can even play an audio clip. You can make it played globally or in a position via radio, or you can even make a soldier say something and what he says is that audio clip. That's completely possible already.
Would the audio clip have to be modded in, or could it just be like in a folder and it would upload as well?
It can be just an audio clip in a folder, or it can be a voice from the in-game files.
Oh, and it'll upload to the workshop as a mod or like as a mission download?
Yeah, definitely. You just put the audio clip inside your mission folder.
Yeah.
You script your mission to play the audio clip when you want, and you just upload the mission.
And it
Very
works.
straightforward.
Oh, wow. How
Yes,
about a
yes,
video?
already.
Could you do a video?
You can't play a video at the moment. No,
Okay,
that's
okay.
you can do it.
Write it down. Write it down. Okay, let's
No, it's
ask. Oh,
something
go ahead.
definitely is gonna be added. Video and cinematics is not the most priority thing to do at the scripting, but we want, inspired by Man of War, which has a lot of cinematic tools
Yeah.
for scripter. It's something that can be very useful in my opinion.
It
Yes.
would be cool, right? Like an intro and like some mid cutscenes. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
answer some questions. We have a lot of questions, so let me just give you some. Okay.
Yes, let's go.
Option to hold fire in vehicles when?
When I mean, it's not something I consider like, extreme priority. Today we have been speaking a lot of stuff, and when I wake up in the morning and say, okay, let's go on, the things I'm gonna prioritize is what I just mentioned. At some point, if just any feature, if this becomes something that is important for the game and there is nothing more urgent to do, I can surely work into something like that. But for the kind of missions we have right now, I believe it's not that much needed. Though this is something that custom missions could probably script already. Like you can make soldiers not shooting enemies. Like we have seen a scripting system that does that a second ago, the one we generated through AI. There was a scripting call where you can say to your soldier not to target enemies. So basically that's the thing. It does work with soldiers on foot. It should work already on with soldiers on vehicles as well. I can't confirm 100%, but I'm pretty sure it does. So technically you can script it already, but as like a order, maybe it's gonna be added later. Yes.
All right. Southern Tunisia with British Indian troops. When? The win's always a win.
Tunisia with Indian troops. So we have plans to make a second part of Tunisia, like a second smaller map with south of Tunisia. This is something that Tyler map makers knows a little bit better than me. Which kind of units were there and which missions we are gonna feature with that. I doubt we're gonna add new factions for that because that requires a lot of stuff, like sometimes new face models if the kind of ethnicity is very different from the ones we had in the game, or it can require a new voice acting. It's a bit of a tricky and costly thing to do. So mostly for the next part of Tunisia, basically campaign, we probably are gonna give more space to stuff we already have in game, like French troops or British troops, rather than adding new factions at the moment, probably.
All righty. Hello, Marco. Is there any Berlin theater planned in the point of game development? Thanks.
Berlin theater. So we have been running some polls already in the past to decide which basically big campaigns to add each time, and Berlin has often be quite high in those polls. We're gonna most likely run another poll once DLC for China is done to decide which other campaigns to do. It might be that players are gonna vote for it, and we're surely gonna take a lot that into consideration. But for example, last time we did a poll, I believe that the most voted ones were North Africa, and we indeed did Tunisia campaign for free. And then we had probably Berlin and Poland. So probably if you go and convince a lot of people to vote for Berlin, most likely Berlin is gonna start being developed this year. But there's a good chance, knowing the result of the last polls. But we don't have any written in the stone plan for the next big campaign at the moment.
All right. Will you ever add animations to static MGs?
Which kind of animations is it specified?
I think I think it's just static MGs. They don't animate, do they, when those guys reload and stuff? I don't know.
Well, yes, Static MGs does have some animations, but some are a bit maybe underwhelming compared to first-person animations. Surely making bodies interact with other objects is a bit more complex, especially in a game like this. Currently, about third-person animation, what we are mostly working into is making soldiers take cover inside vehicles, like crouching inside a landing craft or when in the back of a truck to protect if you are under fire. And it's also quite immersive if you are there with many AIs and I don't know, a plane starts shooting at your landing craft and you see all the AIs crouch down to take cover. I think it's gonna be cool. We have been pausing that a bit because we had to finalize animations for new weapons for the DLC. But mostly what we're gonna do next for animation are reworks of old animations we have for third person and this new system for taking cover inside vehicles. I don't have precise plans for new systems that can improve drastically the kind of animations we have now for vehicles and for reloads in, I don't know, static MGs. But generally the idea right now is to remove many of the very, very old third-person animations and replace them if, as probably closest thing to the question of improving animations in static MGs.
All right. Will we get the ability to order squads behind cover similar to Men of War and Gates of Hell?
Maybe. I mean, choosing a soldier to go behind a specific cover is not impossible. Can be done with the system we have in game. I would argue that this is another thing that, in my opinion, is not strictly necessary at the moment, but I see how that can be cool, and it wouldn't be a huge thing to develop.
Well,
So these are the interesting suggestions that I gonna think about for sure.
so there is an ability with the scripting to add any kind of new commands to the radio thing that pops up. So we could.
I was thinking about this during these last questions because indeed two of these suggestions, like sending a unit behind a specific cover or saying giving an order to stop firing a vehicle, are both two things that could be achieved through scripting. But yeah, scripting is not at the moment directly integrated with pressing a key to give a command. But surely it can be interesting to not just give code to make the players do this kind of stuff, but also allowing players to call this code by pressing stuff in a keyboard. So actually scripting new AI commands, squad leader commands or whatever to do this kind of stuff. Because I'm sure there are a lot of interesting suggestions that player can give when speaking about squad leader orders or stuff like that. Many of those, some of those at least, I can definitely integrate them, especially when they are interesting, easy to integrate at the moment, doesn't steal too much time to other more important stuff. But ultimately, players are gonna have a ton of interesting suggestions, and if I give them the tool to integrate anything that comes into their mind, they are probably gonna add way more stuff than what I have the time to develop. So yeah, adding hopefully scripting system is gonna help a lot realizing many of these wishes from the player, in my opinion.
Okay, that sounds cool. Here's a second question. Any sneak peeks or hints at future Gore updates?
So as said before, this was a super complex thing to realize for the game, to improve for the game because of the nature of the game. I think for the moment we are kind of okay with the improvements we had with the changes we added in Gore in the recent bigger update. It's hard to exactly know what we are gonna be able to develop or to improve in the future. Probably more body part might be possible to rip off, or I don't know, a little better blood effects in general. But gore system in a game like this is probably one of the most complex things to do to make them look well, at least. So but this is very hard to give um, to imagine how it can be evolved. But it's something we have really spent um, a lot of our time, not just mine, but other people in the team have been spending a lot of time trying to work and get ideas to implement it in a way that it can work in Israel too.
Okay. Let's see. It jumped around here. Um, will mods be able to modify the game more in the future, like being able to completely change the vehicle system, the weapon system, the movement system, the inventory system, add amphibious and water vehicles, change properties of already existing objects like sound, textures, stuff like that? And will you try to do something like Armor Reforger did, where there will be internal workshops so console players can mod the game too? That's a lot.
Okay, so yes, that's a lot. Let's see if I can have the question. Is it in the chat? So I don't
It's
want
in about the middle. It's in the middle.
to.
It's right after question 1 and question 2, if you're looking at the thing.
Okay, it's in the clip. Okay. I was checking the chat on YouTube. Okay.
Here, I can send it to you if you want. Here, let me just send it to you.
No, I can't read it. I can read it from the video. So, okay, we'll be able to force squad leader. What were the squad to stay in trench?
Yeah.
No, wait a second.
No, here, I just sent it to you. I just DM'd it. You can read there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, will mods be able to modify the game more in future? We have been trying to do a lot of changes in modding system. Originally, some of the users know, we have been speaking a lot with them about this. Some of the user knows that we wanted to try to transition to a modding system that is done directly in game rather than through Unity editor. Because that would have, well, first made modding system unrelated to Unity updates. So if Unity forces us to basically update to a newer version, there's less risk that current mods gets broken. We always wanted to make sure that, unlike most games, our mods are not dependent on game version and can stay alive even if the game engine gets updated. We'll do our best to keep doing it, but unfortunately, doing modding created internally from a kind of sub menu of the game revealed to be too complex to realize, too time taking. We couldn't do it. And so we are gonna probably keep working in the modding system that is very close to what we have now, and in general it's just expanding it, not really changing it. So we are gonna stick with it, and all mods are gonna keep being compatible, or at least as long as we can do it. So the expansion of new modding systems capabilities will probably add new possibilities. It will hardly modify game files because that's how Unity works. You can easily decompile and modify game files and re-upload them, and it could be even if we wanted to do something like that and add it as if we had the possibility, and I'm gonna spend a few words about that in a second, about bringing modding to console. Surely bringing modding to console can't be done at all if modding will involve modifying game content. That's a no from any mod, from any console. Maybe it's even technically not possible, but at best it's just illegal due to their guidelines. Or at least it is for us. I don't know if other games got a green light for that, but in our case, we tried to bring modding to console a lot, and so far we had no positive response. In the case of Xbox, we were asked to change basically a lot of how the modding system works in order to bring it to Xbox, and we are trying to do that. But ultimately, it's very hard to say if then we edit that stuff, present the system to Xbox, and they then accept it. Unfortunately, the big problem with modding is that it sometimes involves giving to the community some tools that are under NDA and console have to approve them, or it involves making a user download extra content into the hard drive of their console, and that content is not reviewed from the console, which makes the content not trustable, and so that's why consoles are not extremely happy with that. Like, just take this example of releasing our game to PlayStation. We are almost spending more time getting the game approved from PlayStation than what we needed to port it. Not really, like we almost spent 7 months porting it, but like 3 months now trying to get it approved. The same they would like, and we're trustable authors because we have been releasing games for years on other platforms and so on. Like if this is the quality, the kind of control they want that we do on our game, imagine the kind of control PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo would want over content that is not even done by developers. And so far it's really a topic that is even hard to bring it out to console because it's really a little of time wasting question for them. So when we try to bring out the content with them, we really need to present them good ideas, or we don't even get a reply sometimes. So TLDR. I'm trying to do my best to bring some kind of moddings to console, or at least map and mission sharing, but there's a big risk that I'm gonna work weeks and then never get those kind of stuff approved. So I can't promise anything. I surely can promise that I will work into that because I'm already doing it. But I don't want to reveal anything of what I'm doing and create some hype until I have some green light from at least one console producer that says, okay, maybe this thing will be approved and can fit into the game. But we are trying to do it.
Okay. Adding weapons from adding weapons from World War One like Hellriegel and Lewis gun.
The first one I didn't understood which one it was.
Hellriegel? I don't know what that. I don't know that
Okay.
weapon.
I believe it's an Austrian SMG, but I don't know how it was used in World War II, while the Lewis gun was used in World War II.
Yeah.
And was used in some battles with features. So it's a weapon that we can probably add. The first Easy Red had it. It's a weapon I'd like to have, honestly, in the game. When we speak about weapons, there are so many weapons that can always be added, and we always work every month into new weapons, new vehicles. Right now, you have seen some new vehicles and weapons for the DLC mostly. But again, they're gonna be out of the DLC as well. But generally, we give priority to weapons that we need mostly for what campaigns we're working on. So yes, if it's a weapon we need for base game, we are most likely, or at least we're most likely gonna consider adding it at some point. If it's a weapon that doesn't have anything to do with base game or DLCs or whatever, it's a bit less likely that we're gonna work with that. But in the case of Lewis gun, I think it's gonna come at some point. It's not definitely the next priority weapon we're gonna work on. We have a big list of weapon we are considering, but I believe there is no Lewis gun so far in there because we have a bit more priority ideas.
Okay, well, this gives me a question of my own for this. So I think I've asked this before, but I'll ask it again. So just hypothetically, if you're going to do another new game, would you do something like the Battlefield series or whatever, where you go to another era? And like, say you went to World War I or whatever, would you do something like that? Or do you really want to stick with this game and just keep building it out?
I think that at some point it's gonna be possible that it's not gonna be worth it to work into Easy Red 2. Until the game can have some major improvements, it makes sense to work on it. And surely until the game generates enough budget to be kept working on. But if at some point it's not economically sustainable, we have to move into a new project. I'm not sure what's gonna be next project. I don't have ideas. I don't want to really spend too much time designing a new idea right now because time changes, and if we end up working into a new game 2 years from now or 3 years from now, whatever, we might have to scrap the idea I could think of today because in 3 years from now, new games might be released, new technologies. and the new ideas might make more sense to be designed. So we'll see when it's gonna be the time. But most of the team we built so far are very skilled people about work games. So it's most very likely that we are gonna keep doing war games at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'd like to work into different kind of games like I did in the past. So maybe I don't know if the budget keeps expanding. Maybe at some point we're gonna be able to develop multiple kind of games at the same time. Most likely the war kind of games is something we learned to do quite well. So it's very likely that is a genre that we will not completely abandon.
I think if I could make a suggestion, maybe for your next DLC, whatever it may be, it should probably bring along some kind of new big feature that you don't release as a free version right away. So like if you're doing bombers, then that would be the DLC, and that way you have some more reason for people to buy into it, I think, for the bigger features. Is that something you thought about or not really?
No, yeah, you are completely right. Actually, you made the case of bombers, and it's not a secret that it's something I really would love to make at some point. Shanghai, for example, was a place that was very much heavily bombed by Japanese plane, and we had a chance to consider it. Actually, making bombers can take some time, so it's not a bomber system. So it's not something we are able to fit in the game before the launch of the DLC, but most likely it's a feature we're gonna add. So it's not gonna be DLC exclusive or DLC released. I mean, it doesn't make sense surely to Bomber to be exclusive to DLC. If it's added, it's gonna be added to many missions. But the idea of giving specific features within DLCs or to release big features alongside with DLCs is definitely something that makes sense from the point of view of marketing for sure. But yeah, it's just a bit difficult to match the release of a big feature and base game content. Like take the scripting system. If it was released exactly alongside the DLC, maybe it was the best marketing strategy. But we need the scripting system to be tested as much as possible by users in order to finalize it and make it good. So we have to release it in the current half-done state, more than half-done, featuring half features. So it's hard to release it like, here's the scripting system. This is fully working. This is perfect. It's better to give a little bit of it to player gradually so I can finalize it with the good feedbacks, and most features are usually released like that, so it's a bit hard to match all these timings.
I always like that shot in this video that we're watching where you have all like the carriers with the planes taking off. Like is that in a campaign somewhere? Because I really like that.
It's custom missions on the workshop. I don't remember which one.
Oh, is it? Okay.
There are carrier missions. I mean, there are places where you can take off from carrier.
Yeah.
But that one shot, I believe it was from a mission from a Pacific mission editor in a workshop mission, basically.
Okay. So here's another question. Do you plan to improve the close quarter battles for Easy Red 2 for the AI? Not sure what that means. Are you like if someone could follow up on that, whoever asked that question, are you asking about like how they do more hand-to-hand combat or like take cover, or I'm not sure what they mean by that.
I think I can imagine what it is about. Maybe it's both about melee weapons, which is something that can be a quite big addition, but between all the big addition is the ones that is not really much into consideration at the moment, like katanas or I don't know, big knife handled at the moment. Many reasons, technical and gameplay wise, it's a bit hard. And maybe it's also a question about, in general, making the AI behave a bit better when closer to another enemy, which is something that can be addressed a bit more easily. So this second possibility is something that is more likely to be worked on, not too much far in the future. But hand-to-hand combat weapons, it's a very complex system to develop for a mechanic that doesn't make doesn't make too much sense to use very often in the game, and it's mostly gonna be something that the player ends up using anyway, except maybe some, I don't know, banzai charge attacks or something like that, but which is gonna still feature very few times. So yeah, I think
Okay.
this answered the question.
All right. Question about LAN support having high ping in the same house.
Lens support having high ping.
In the same house. Like, I guess they're trying to play it on two computers in the house, and maybe they're getting lag.
Okay, like having local connection. So the game needs to route the network traffic outside of your router to work and to pass through a ESP. So being in the same house doesn't change much. Um, the thing is, this is a super complex game to synchronize. You have a map that sometimes has like 14,000 buildings or objects. Most of them can be destroyed. Most buildings have multiple destruction points. So let's say you have to synchronize some hundred of thousands of destructible objects, plus more than 100 units, plus, I don't know, many explosions, many bullets going on. It's not like synchronizing a Call of Duty where you have just 64 players or 128 players. It's very, 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 very much more than that. So the game has to give up a bit on super fast network in order to give more space to bigger combat. Is there plan to improve this? Well, of course, I'm not against improving anything in the game at all, but yeah, I just want to point out that there are some difficulties for sure.
So what they're looking at more, Marco, is that you're saying that the way the game is set up, it has to go to a server outside, and then it sets up the game, and then it talks between that server, and like it's not
No,
like no.
that's well, it depends. There is a server that handles the matchmaking, but matches are mostly peer-to-peer, which is the best technology in our case because we don't have to make a game that is extremely solid to cheating, because it's not really a competitive game, and we don't in fact need the game to be I mean, mostly, in our case, that what a server could be helpful for. But in order to be easy to be developed, for sure, the game is mostly built to run over multiplayer, not local. We could make the game to work on local multiplayer as well, of course, but it's gonna be like used by 1% of the players or something like that plays with other people. So at the moment we mostly focus on the game being played in multiplayer but having to pass through external network. It sounds like it's a small change to make the game work on local network just like it works on global network, but actually it's a bit more complex than that. Using ISP to reroute traffic simplify really just the work so much. So even if you are inside the same house, the connection goes out, reaches your ISP connection provider, and then gets back. Doesn't go to necessarily to our servers, exactly, especially because during matches, the game is peer-to-peer. But he has to go to the ESP and come back for sure in order to easily reroute traffic. That said, it's not impossible that at some point we might change our mind into this and decide to develop, I don't know, a local system as well. But it's really not worth it at all at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay. So next up question, let's get some more questions really quick here. Upgrade the graphics, like adding PBR textures, more realistic lighting, and more effects? Question mark?
Okay, can you copy paste the question because it's 3 questions.
Yeah,
So
no problem. Let me get it right
yes,
now.
thanks.
Here we go.
We
And
yes.
boom. There you go.
Okay, so we have PBR textures. Our materials are custom-made materials that are meant to be optimized and run on every hardware. and can be handled in order to have custom effects, like I don't know, blood on uniforms or ground projection over some specific props, or I don't know, birth effects. We have a lot of effects on our shader, so we had to make custom ones, and we do have PBR. Like our texture have normal mapping, have metallic, has smoothness, has ambient occlusion, has emissions, really support most of the modern PBR technologies. About more realistic lighting, one thing we are a bit limited to is the fact that we want to support older PCs. So if you want to support, especially with Unity, older architectures like Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, or even just a little bit older PCs, there are some compromise you have to do, and it's not stuff that can be easily turned on and off depending on the hardware, unfortunately, unless you really work into two different video games, almost version of the same video games at least. But some stuff can indeed be done. Some can't, but some can. For example, one thing we tried to implement in the past, and we still try to do at some point, but we couldn't achieve good looking enough result or optimized enough, is some extra effects on our PBR materials, like tessellation or displacement, basically, of vertex. I don't remember the name right now, but basically, parallax or tessellation, or both. A couple interesting material effect to add to our PBR shaders, but those surely would be possible to be enabled only on systems that holds GPUs that supports that. So it will be optional. So hard stuff to realize. Not everyone is gonna have it. Equals longer times to develop, but it's something we tried to do in the past. If I remember correctly, the result was like huge performance loss. So I was just like, okay, this effect doesn't look this good at the moment, and it's not that much good at the moment. So I just gave up temporarily to move into some other stuff. I surely don't like when I spend like weeks into something, I don't get good results. At some point, I say maybe it's better if I focus on something else, and in future with more time, more resources, I can come back. This is an example, though. In general, better effects can come, but with some limits. If we want to keep supporting older hardware, at least.
Okay, that makes sense. A real easy question to answer. Will there be pizzas for the Shanghai DLC release party?
I think I'm gonna. There's a guy from my city that helped me a bit to do some stuff for the DLC, especially handling game pages, setup on PlayStation, other stuff. And we are gonna buy a Chinese, Chinese rice wine. I don't remember, something like that. A wine that we enjoyed, we had in the past. So we're gonna have a little, let's say, party with that super nice bottle of Chinese wine, and most likely we're gonna get a pizza because pizza is good and it's easy to take, affordable. I mean, most likely we're gonna get a pizza as well.
All right, cool. So I won't be there, but thanks for inviting me. So
I mean, if you are randomly in this area while we are throwing
yeah,
this little
maybe
party,
I'll
I will
I'll parachute
very
in.
big.
So we have
I will definitely.
a new question I just DM'd you. There's three of them, so you can just read them.
Okay.
Okay.
So, guten Tag, Marco. I have a few questions. One, would there be an option to do dog tags, to do guess attacks if the second Sino-Japanese war in the battles were historically accurate? So, in general, gas grenades or gas attacks is something that, from one point of view, it's a kind of feature that many players requested, but it's also a kind of particular kind of weapon that was very much prohibited during the war, I believe. Or in general, there's a bit of talk about how kind of fair war it is. So It's something that I would really like to make sure that it doesn't um, ends up being something that can cause how to say hard critics. I mean, the thing is, the places we're gonna depict in the Shanghai DLCs are places that we are very far from. I mean, it's the other side of the world almost, and I want to make sure that I treat with respect the kind of war I'm gonna making, because there are people that might still have scars due to the events that happened, and everything that is about prohibited weapons and very how to say high level of suffering attacks and weapons can be something that is a bit of a complex topic to show properly. So at the moment we decided to try to stay careful and not assume that we can do whatever we want when we design stuff that is meant to be historically correct and speaks about situations that happened really in the other side of the world. So for the moment we are not developing specifically gas attacks and stuff like that. Maybe we will start adding them for some fronts at the moment, but for China at the moment it's not planned to add those. I really didn't explain this very well. I've kind of good, or I mean, kind of decent technical language when I have to speak about technical stuff, but when I have to speak about more, common stuff, my English lose a bit. So sorry if I didn't explain that super well. Anyway, two. Could we get a Japanese gas mask with the bag or whatever they carried with them for the gas mask? Um, I currently not exactly knowledgeable about what kind of anti-gas mask systems the Japanese had. Usually, this kind of research are done directly by either the uniform modeler, which, as I was saying before, Riku has a lot of knowledge about uniforms, especially Japanese uniforms. He's a Japanese reenactor, World War II reenactor himself, and most of the adjustments we recently did on the Japanese uniforms are done through him. I'm quite sure that if it didn't, I mean, I'm quite positive that if it didn't suggest to add a Japanese gas mask kit, is because maybe it wasn't that common in the battles we are depicting, at least, or maybe it was not used at all. I don't know, honestly, personally, because, for example, for the Chinese army instead, we have it. It's suggested to add it, and suggested to add it to most of the kits, or to many kits at least. So it's possible that maybe it was not that common thing. I might be wrong here again. This is a kind of research that I tend to leave to people that are more knowledgeable than me. So I will check this after. But if it ends up being something historically accurate to have and very common, it's not big deal to add it. 3. Is the American M43 uniform planned for a rework along with the American Airborne and Winter Coat? I don't want to be mistaken, but I think we already have M43 in the Battle of the Bulge. I might be wrong at the moment, I don't remember. But at the moment, we don't plan specifically to rework more American uniforms. Maybe the airborne one is something we're gonna touch a bit, but the big plans right now are for the Italian army, which needs much more variation that it currently has and much more historically accuracy. Like, for example, it's a good thing to suggest a little detail like a detail like the gas mask addition if it ends up being historically accurate, but compared to the kind of rework other uniforms requires, like the Italian ones, it's extremely small detail. For the Japanese, we might add a little gas mask, or for the American, a kind of different M43 jacket. But for the Italian army, there's a complete rework that needs to be done. So, in my opinion, that's a bit more priority. And the same is for the Soviets, because at the moment we have temporary uniforms. We managed to purchase from 3D modeling website, because we had to change some historical inaccuracies with that, and we managed to handle we were able to do it quite quickly thanks to that. But as most uniforms and models, we want to have our own models and to go to historically accuracy and models that make sense for specific environments. So we are gonna, after Italian uniform rework, most likely gonna make our own uniform for Soviets, and we're gonna go deeper into having variants for that. So I
Oh,
hope this answer all these 3 questions.
okay. All right, here's a quick one. DLC features. I want to see horses and cavalry.
Um, it can be very interesting to have them. I've seen some people making some interesting mods with that, and I was kind of surprised. I think this is a kind of system that, especially for moddings, like being able to make vehicles, because that's how we most likely gonna implement a horse is gonna be like a sort of vehicle that looks like an animal, but you can in the end get in and drive like a vehicle. And basically, the idea is to add a bit more at some point animation system for vehicles, especially for modding, so people can make cavalry for sure, and maybe we're gonna use the system for vanilla as well. But also maybe this kind of animation can be done to make, I don't know, like big robots or other kind of stuff, because right now what's our vehicle system miss in order to make this kind of stuff is basically big animation system to allow vehicles to not just be solid pieces that goes around and at most has some wheels that rotates or some helica. A horse, or walking mecha or whatever, in order to be implemented as mod, or in case of horses as vanilla content, needs a bit more specific animation system, basically to animate the entire thing.
Actually, there's no animals in the game at all, is there?
No, we consider a lot of them at some point, like birds automatically, posing on the ground or the roof, or just as a, visual prop, or I don't know, rats sometimes, or some kind of sheeps around. But in the end, we never had the time to add anything.
Okay, I want animal DLC, man.
Why not? I
I
mean,
feel like there should be
uh,
cows in Normandy, right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that specifically, yes, when saying cows. Um, Cows, birds, small animals
yeah.
can really make the battle definitely more real and alive, I believe. I
And
mean,
if
the
you
battle, the scenarios.
and if you do like a stealth mission where you scare the birds, you know?
Yeah, then you trigger the enemies.
Yeah, trigger the enemy. All right, so we're gonna move to some chat questions. So here's one from Bradley early on. If I can get it to work. Did it work?
Mhm.
There. Yeah, there it goes. Bradley. Whoops. I hit it too many times. It was slow. Oh, it's back. What got you into game development, Marco?
What got me into, well, I started playing video games quite early. I've been playing when I was super young. I remember Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, and console that my mother had and left to me. Or I saw her playing the PlayStation One, and I played a bit as well. But my very first console, I think, was Super Nintendo, and I was immediately in love with entertainment systems, especially when I was young and I was, I don't know, at my grandmother house that she lives in the middle of the countryside, and there isn't much to do if you're alone. So, well, video games were a good way to spend the time, and really learned a lot about that and got a lot interested. So when I was a bit older, like at middle school, I could put my hands on a PC, and I was really into very sandbox games, or at least games that allows you to mod, like GTA San Andreas, or I don't know, Minecraft, where you could even just take a texture, edit it, and say, "Oh wow, I do this stuff," and now the game changed and a completely, or partially different thing than before, because and now it's how I want it to be. That was really an emotion that I loved, Another thing that contributed to that was the fact that I had no idea what to do at high school. But when you go to an Italian school, you do generic school until middle school, and then at some point you have to choose whatever kind of schools you want to do. You have to choose a specialization, and you have zero information on how to pick it. So I decided to a random school, and I went, or maybe I don't know. I knew I wanted to do it, but not like consciously. But yeah, I decided to go to information technology high school where I learned how to code. So at some point, I knew how to code. I knew how to modify textures and work with Photoshop and a bit of skills in that field. Then I could learn how to 3D model. I really knew. I really at some point had all the pieces to start making a video game of my own, just like the ones I were playing when I was a child, basically.
Okay.
So passion and luck, and studying some stuff.
Okay. Let's see. I got another question. Do you guys have any plans to add more scripted moments in the current campaigns?
So like script a moment current campaign. Uh, can you copy the question?
Yeah, I think that's something you answered earlier that you did want to go back and use a scripting system for the campaigns.
Current campaign. Okay. So yes, there is some ideas to later on. I mean, the focus of scripting is to add systems to add the possibility to make game modes, which is a bit more interesting for now. But surely the scripting can allow at some point also to introduce some more um, scripted moments or cinematic intros. um, I definitely, as I was saying before, interesting. I think it could be interesting to see some moments like Man of War where you have really scripted camera and dialogues and the UIs specific to the cinematics. But basically it's hard to make plans for that right now. I'm really into making gameplay more than this kind of things for the moment. But some stuff we were saying before, in case someone joined later, can be done already. Like you can, for example, make a soldier say a specific custom clip already by just making a .wav file, audio clip file, putting into your mission folder and just writing one line of code to make the audio play. You can either play in 3D around the map or 2D, globally, or it can be a radio stuff, or it can be a soldier speaking that line. That can technically be already used to make some, little cinematic. Like imagine you have a group of soldiers speaking between themselves, and when they are done, they start going into battle. I mean, completely possible. But base game campaigns mostly are gonna remain battle simulation, most likely. Maybe if there will ever be a scripted campaign with some personalities, some character and stuff like that, some protagonists, is gonna be, I don't know, another game, or at most a little DLC, or something a bit unrelated from base game. It's still a World War II simulator in vanilla mode, at least.
Okay. NN says, "Hey Marco, please make a Type 38 early without the front sight wings uh, for the new LC, which is historically
The
outdated."
Arizaka, I think it says. Yes.
Uh,
True. Yeah, we are considering that. Yes, yeah. I mean, most likely we are gonna just do it. It's very simple editing. Yeah, yeah. Actually, thanks for reminding me. That so many stuff going on that I kind of forget this kind of little but easy to make details that can really help giving some variation. So yeah, removing front sight from Type 38 is gonna probably come.
hmm. How many missions are in the new DLC?
Currently, we have 15 mission ready, and I believe the second map will add 5 extra,
So
but
about 20?
mhm, around 20.
Yeah.
At least 15, at least a bit more than 15, probably less than, I don't know, 25.
Do you have the price for the new DLC?
No, don't have the price yet. I believe it's gonna be the same as usual, because probably that's what people expect it to be. But to be fair, this was a huge work, like almost double than any other DLC we ever made.
Really?
Uh, yes, we took almost a year to implement it with almost double size the team. So it was really a lot of stuff. There we had a huge help from an Arma 3 mod maker that made a mod of Chinese battles into Arma 3 that helped us a lot. But still, to make all the destruction in buildings, many uniforms we required, weapons, animations, some vehicles, specifically for the DLCs. It was really a huge work. Even just the map making was way more complex than any other map we ever made.
Okay. Wow. All right. That's cool. Con the Wolf asks, will the new scripting editor change older campaign mission objectives, future ones, or just left for the community for the workshop content? Not sure.
It's
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not gonna change the way all the missions works. You can decide to integrate scripting into your own missions. People can do that in their own missions, and the future mission can eventually feature scripting. It can be just playing some audio clip, or it can be a completely new game mode missions based on scripting, or can be completely ignored and someone can keep doing missions as they always did.
Okay, here's another one. Can we have a faction editor? Not sure what that means.
Um, if they want to edit base game campaign, the answer is similar as before. Not something easily doable, especially if you want at some point to hopefully bring modding on console, or even just to ensure that multiplayer works fine. Because if you edit your content offline of base game content, you might end up seeing different things than other people online. It's a complex thing to do. But if you mean making your own factions, you can completely make your custom factions through the modding system. We had many tutorials, actually we had a couple tutorials to show that, because it's not that complex. But our modding system is almost completely documented, and you shouldn't have big deals on making your custom factions if you follow it point to point.
Okay. Can you have landing crafts be destroyed?
Currently it's not possible to destroy them. um I remember we did something like that at some point. We had it for a few days, if I remember correctly, but ultimately people were more mad than happy, because it was a bit too annoying to be in a landing craft waiting to be delivered and then getting destroyed,
Okay,
especially online.
that makes sense.
So at the moment, it's a feature we are not having anymore, at least for now.
Can you be killed in a landing craft currently? Like shot?
Yes, but it's a bit you can do it with a plane if you're going from the top, but it's gonna be harder to do from with a small weapon. And with the current work in progress cover animation inside vehicles, where you can crouch inside a vehicle including a landing craft, is gonna be even harder to kill the crew inside, because once the landing craft is getting shot, you can just crouch and all the AIs will crouch anyways, so you're gonna get very much protected inside.
Okay. Bradley is asking, will you be able to force a squad leader to keep an order? Like, if I want to order the squad to stay in a trench, I want to be able to switch without my AI officer changing the order.
Ah, well, maybe yeah, we can add a system to completely, disable. I mean, with scripting, you can already do that. You can make a mission where the squad that you spawn has the AI giving order disabled, so you are the only one that can give order.
Oh, okay.
With a custom order, it's currently not possible because it's a feature that it risks to break the game. In order to for a mission to go on, you need the soldiers to fight over an objective. If you are on low bot count, you might sometimes have very few squads, if not just one squad active. And if that squad is your squad, and your squad is given order to stay in a position, and then you swap to another soldier and forget about it, that squad will never attack the objective, and the mission will just um, soft locked because the AI is forced not to do what they have to do in order to complete the mission. So it's not something easy to integrate without breaking the gameplay. Maybe we can make some game mods settings that allow you to do this kind of stuff, but worth you be aware that you can easily break the mission if you do this kind of stuff, because the AI will not self-regulate in order to not soft lock the mission. But yeah, basically that's the big challenge here.
Okay. Let's see. Will third-person animations get improved and fix the lateral walking animations?
Well, we are working a lot on third-person animation. We have been focusing a lot into that last year, where now we are mostly shifting into third-person animation inside vehicles. Before we did locomotion animation from scratch. I'm not sure what it means with lateral working, though. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure
But
either.
yeah, but yeah, we've like if you take the animation from 1 year ago or 2 years ago in third person, where literally day and night changes, I would say.
Okay, I'm guessing this is a scripting answer. Can you make radio tell an AI plane to bomb like artillery?
Yes, that's something that I agree can be interesting to add, especially with the bomber system that I'm sure at some point will come. Hopefully this year already. Most likely this year already, actually.
Not too sure about this one. Gaming, will the number of AI scaling for both teams be improved in the future for single player and multiplayer? I don't know. Are you talking about more AI? Because I feel like we just got a boost in like the number of AI you can play in a game.
Yeah, they almost doubled since last year. But last year, I mean, 1 year, 12 months ago, not 2024 in general. But with scripting, technically now you don't have any limit. I mean, I like to make limits on how many AI you can put, because I don't want people to, release missions that completely burned other people PCs. I want to limit and make sure that people makes optimized stuff. But with scripting, if you are good enough to script, you're probably responsible enough to use scripting well, performance well. And if you're scripting a mission, technically at the moment at least, you have no limits on how many AI your script can spawn. So you can go on and make your own mission. But sorry, I add this thing for vanilla missions. Adding more bots would completely broke the missions we have. They are really designed to have some amount of bots specifically. You can increase them, you can decrease them, but it's more about performance or some kind of immersion. But like you can't do some missions with 1,000 bots. It's gonna be like very small objectives sometimes, and it's just not fitting that.
Okay, here's a question. I think I have this question as well. I would love to see an option for solo campaign to play as commander and issue squad orders for multiple squads. But I think that leads to my question too. Is there a way, even if it's like scripting, can you manage more than your own tank?
Well, with scripting, you can somehow easily do that already. Like we were saying before, as you can't currently map actions to keyboard, so you can't like make a system where you directly control multiple squad, maybe with keyboard inputs or stuff. But it can be interesting to add that feature. But technically, you can script already other squads to do what you want. So yeah, if you can make a script that make other squads do what you want, you are technically already controlling those. With the implementation of keyboard binding in order to make your custom actions that can escalate. And technically, if just adding, I don't know, the possibility to bind keyboard actions or add new custom UIs can give the possibilities to create, I don't know, a completely new kind of game mode, like an RTS system where you use keyboard to control other squads. So not impossible with scripting, just maybe need a few extra scripting functions to be available first.
Okay. Will flamethrower troops get gas mask? Also, will you add rocks to flamethrower for Soviet?
As before, if something is very I mean, we don't have plans right now to add like, I guess it means gas masks on faces. We are not planning at the moment to add gas mask headgear. It's not gonna be a complex addition though, so we might actually change the idea. I mean, we don't plan is I don't plan in this case. That really just means it's not something we've been discussed recently or we are working on, but it's not like doesn't sound like a complex addition if I understand what this means. And I guess it is a historically correct detail to have a gas mask on some kind of flamethrower operators. I believe Germans ones mostly. So we might actually add that. But well, actually, it's an interesting suggestion. As a suggestion is interesting. As a question, are we doing that? We are currently not doing it. But the other question, which was it? Which one?
Rocks to ROKS to flamethrower for Soviets?
Rocks 2?
Yeah, rocks. That's the name of it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Can you write it down? Maybe it's just language barrier.
It's on the screen right now if you see it.
For some reason I don't see it.
You don't see it on the video stream? On the screen?
No, I have. Will we have the ability to in the future to modify existing sounds and textures and
No. On
other stuff?
on the live stream.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm blind. It's the big one. I was looking at the chat again.
Oh, okay.
Yes. You're right. Will the flamethrower go? Okay. Also, will you add arrow KS2 flamethrower? Maybe. I don't have plans again to make. I mean, right now we are not working into Soviets. When we are working into Soviets, we might for sure add more uniforms, gas mask bags, and maybe even gas mask gear. Soviet flamethrower is at the moment not planned, but in general we are not currently working into Soviets. When we see us working into specific army in future, feel free to resuggest that. Maybe we're gonna do it. Right now we are mostly focalizing on this DLC, and later on about uniforms we're gonna work into Italian. So if anyone has good Italian suggestions, it's gonna be the time to do it. We have our great ideas already, but we are gonna be extremely open to suggestions because we are already working into that kind of stuff at that moment when Italian uniforms.
Okay.
That's really the best moment where to suggest stuff. When you see us working into those already.
Here's an interesting question. Like, how do the soldiers pick their targets? Do they have a bias for the player?
No, not at all. Actually, that's something that many people ends up, not many, but sometimes I heard some people thinking about that. But I believe that some people might play in a bit aggressive way where they stand often in the front line in front of every other bot. The way that AI prioritize target is mostly about first the kind of target he can kill. Like if it's a tank, he has anti-tank weapons. He's gonna prioritize the tank. If it's an anti-aircraft weapon and there's an aircraft flying around, he's gonna prioritize that. But when an infantry soldier has to prioritize another soldier, he's gonna mostly prioritize the closest target, simply the closest visible target. If the player is the closest target and is not in cover, most likely he's gonna be targeted. There's a bit of randomization on that, so it's not always the case. But the player is exactly a soldier, just like any other soldier in battle. AI is not coded to give any priority to the player. But as I was saying, I believe many players, myself included, ends up being often not in cover and rushing a bit more toward the enemy compared to bots. So it can end up being targeted more often just because it's more often the closest target to the enemy.
Speaking of the bots and all that stuff, I feel like if I'm the squad leader, sometimes it feels like even though we're not under fire, my squad doesn't run as fast as I do, and they always fall behind.
Yes, depends on the kind of movements the squad is told to. They might decide to not rush too much, especially like if you are in covert movement, they tend to move a bit more stealthy because they are not spotted by the enemy. But like if they are under fire, they have to move in other ways, they tend to rush as much as possible. Of course, there are other stuff that can impact the speed of AI going into places. Like, this game has up to 140 bots in vanilla missions, which means that all those bots have to calculate their path and their destinations. And the map can be destroyed and new paths might be open, so it's not something that can be cached easily. Paths must be calculated every time because map can change at any time. So that requires time, which makes the AI sometimes have to wait a few instants to have a direction, a path to move through, and that adds some extra steps in order to the AI to go from a place to another, which makes them, sometimes falls a bit behind to the player, which instead has, of course, more freedom to move faster because, it's human controlling it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like if you're running across the field, sometimes they feel like they're running a lot slower than me, even though they're running. Do they run
I
at
mean,
the same speed?
there's yes, of course.
Yeah.
Run speed is the same. What makes AI slower is two things. One, if they are in covert movement order, which means they are gonna move stealth, then yes, they're gonna technically move
Oh, they're
slower because
crouching or
they are
something? Oh,
gonna
okay.
crouching. But another thing that might makes AI slower, as I said, is the pathfinding, which means sometimes AI might need a half second or so to start moving just because you have to calculate the path, or sometime after running for 100 meters it might stop for a second to calculate next path or stuff like that, which is gonna end up making them fall a bit behind. But when they are running with no specific order, no, they run the same speed of the player. The player in the game, this is important,
Uh-huh.
is not any different from any other soldier. What the soldier is controlling is like he's controlling a bot with the same exact capabilities, nothing different. So everything a bot can do and a player can do usually is literally the same thing, and they do the same way. It's not like they are coded differently.
Okay. Question for you, Marco. Will you make more faces for models for every nation? Like 3 for factions?
Well, if you haven't seen the recent update, he's gonna be happy because we made many new model recently. Making face models is quite a complex thing, especially when the faces require different shape because there's a risk of new models to clip on new gears, like even headgears. Like imagine you have a cap must fit a face, and then you have a face of a different ethnicity, which has a different shape. And if you don't check all 100 plus headgears in game, especially caps, every time you make a new face, you might end up having a new head models that clips. But recently we added new face models and especially textures, including some for the French and Italian army that has some mustache, which were in some cases allowed in those armies. We can't add a ton of variations for those for other technical reasons as well, but surely the new faces, in my opinion, are already giving a bit more immersion and organicity, how to say, across the bots that now looks a bit less all the same.
Yeah,
Previously we had
organic.
three, now
Yeah.
we're at the previously we had like three face model for each ethnicity. Now we have a bit more.
Okay. Will there be more official game modes added? Like,
So as I was
yeah.
saying before, with the scripting system, we are gonna make also different kind of objective in game, like destroy the gun in order to progress, or vehicles in order to progress, or I don't know, like some kind of wave attacks where you have to defend a single point in an entire mission and just survive multiple waves or whatever. I don't know. I don't have specific ideas yet. I mean, I have some ideas, like the one I just mentioned,
Yeah, but those will be
but the scripting
official?
system. Yes.
Oh, okay.
One that is 100% gonna come is I don't remember the name of the place, but a paratrooper mission in Normandy where you are gonna have not just to conquer areas but to destroy guns in order to progress the mission, because that's how the mission was in real life. Paratroopers landed in Normandy the night before the D-Day in order to destroy some anti-aircraft guns and some long range gun to avoid the hitting. This is where the allies were landing. So we're gonna change those missions not just to land and capture, but to land and destroy the guns in order to progress the mission. For
Okay.
example.
Cool. Let's see. I think this might be easy to answer. Will there be the ability in the future to modify existing sounds and textures? You can, right, with mods, but maybe he's asking like if there's a simple way to do it, like where you just throw it in a directory.
I think what he means is the same question as before, like modifying game file textures rather than new modding stuff. Either the thing you said, Endo, and this thing I think he meant have been partially answered, meaning that if we are speaking about modifying game content, there are several technical reasons. Go back to the clip,
Yeah.
to the live, and you will hear why they can't easily be done. And adding new modded stuff a bit more easily also actually was discussed before. It's something we tried to do, but in the end, the current modding system revealed to be a better choice technically to be kept expanding rather than going into different ways. And in the end, is for the best because there are a lot of many good mods in the game, and it's better if we keep the current modding system we have and we expand it anyway rather than
But
risking to have to. Yes,
but you did say that we can drop a sound for the scripting system and play that.
yes. Okay. You can play a sound in the with the scripting system. Yes, in a custom mission. That's really not a mod. I mean, not in my head.
Okay.
I mean, we can consider it a mod, of course, but if we intend, I mean, when I think about a mod, I mean, like new plane, new faction, new weapon. Okay, that's more complex. Needs the modding SDK. If it's just about playing a sound or maybe displaying a texture on the UI or some simple stuff, sound is already available, texture not. But some simple stuff, yeah, I can do with scripting for sure. Replacing game-based content is more complex and probably is not gonna come.
Okay.
Modding through folders without using the modding SDK probably is not coming at this point after the test we did.
Okay, but on the scripting side, currently you can add sound effects, but you can't add any like textures or anything like that into that folder, right?
Exactly.
Or a model or
Exactly.
something. Okay.
No, you can't. No, probably model you is not gonna be possible to be added by scripting. Texture, I mean, depends what you mean. Like if you have to make a custom UI and at some point the scripting is gonna support custom UI
Yeah.
scripted, well, probably those are gonna support custom textures as well. You can
Okay.
make your
Okay.
UI with your, but like adding a texture to a model with a scripting, I don't think
No.
it's gonna
Okay.
be
No, I
possible. You
meant
have to
like
make a
yeah, like
model one.
something that
Yeah.
you want to put on the screen or something. Yeah.
Yeah, simple stuff most likely, like assets that doesn't interact too much with other stuff, like playing a sound and stuff like that.
Okay. Question is point de hoc rework. Yes, no?
Depends on what kind of change it's suggested to be done. I didn't know that it was something that was suggested to be reworked and why. But with more information on what kind of reworks, we can elaborate more. But
Yeah.
at the moment, we don't have ideas or plans to
I
rework
think
it.
it's because you got that new map guy, right? And he's been like reworking quite a bit of the campaign with new models and all that stuff. So I think that's why people
Okay.
are asking.
Yes, but Point Duoc specifically, it's a mission that features a system that is unique in the game. It's there only for that system, which is the rope system, where you climb rocks with a rope. I suppose it has something to do with that because we have 100 plus missions in the game. So why mentioning that mission? Maybe because he has this unique feature, but
Yeah.
what kind of rework then is suggested? Like Normandy have been tasked many times, and I feel like it's a very good DLC.
Okay.
So I don't have in mind what kind of improvement one player could expect from it at the moment. You know.
Okay. And this is going back to the faces. I guess he was saying faces that resemble the Germans or Soviets. Like I guess are the faces generic, or do they actually look like they're Asian and stuff like that? Is that what he
No,
means?
no, yes. So we have three big ethnicity: Asian, Caucasic, and African faces. Then we have some sub ethnicity, and for example, Japanese faces tends to have less bird than Chinese ones because they had less control over the units because they were struggling in that part of the world. Or Italian and French tends to have mustache. Americans tends to have more bird because we could find a lot of references where apparently it was not that much enforced to shave the bird. I mean, it was probably a rule, but in the end, many soldiers ended up not shaving it apparently on the battlefield. So we have three big categories, and then each army tends to have different faces depending on the army.
Okay. Somebody asked about modern DLC, but we were talking about that earlier. That you kind of plan to stay in the same era right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely like to work into different stuff. At some point, could be refreshing for me as well. But at the moment, I mean, Sino-Japanese War technically is already not World War II because it's 2 years before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all events that in some very was very very related to the World War II. Some in the end, but. The, let's say battles that are related to World War II somehow are more likely to come into Israel 2. Other completely different historic period are at the moment not under consideration, but it's something that maybe will appear in another game or I don't know, future DLCs in the future. We'll see.
Okay. Next up was something about World War II RPG. That's a scripting thing, right?
So this could either refer to the fact that you can technically, yeah, script an RPG with a scripting system. I mean, with more systems like UIs, definitely you can uh, make more interesting stuff. But right now, the fact that you can have a script that wait for the player to approach and a soldier that says something, and maybe you can make a mission where you have to kill a specific soldier. Technically, you can make an RPG in Israel 2 right now, but maybe he's referring to the fact that time ago I released a game called Affront of Fire, which was a World War II RPG. But in the end, apparently, the kind of public that plays RPGs is very different from the public that plays video World War II games. So it didn't have that much such success. So I didn't have the budget to keep developing it, unfortunately. I mean, it was released in a completely playable version from 0 to 100, but as an RPG expects to have many features, I would have loved to add much more stuff if the game would have caught more interest. But back then, it really uh, didn't even repay itself when was released the first year, so I had to abandon that.
Okay. Will the third person shadows be reworked? I guess they don't reflect what you're actually wearing. Is that something you'll be working on or not able to do?
Okay, so this is a good moment to speak about this. It's actually a bit complex topic because when you are in first person, you have some dedicated first person animations. So your rifle, your hands, and everything doesn't perfectly match what you see in third person, while your body does. So the choices are either you don't have any shadows but then you don't even have a shadows on your hands, because if your hands don't cast and your first person hands and rifle don't cast shadows on the ground, they don't even cast it on themselves, which is gonna look, in my opinion, very bad. Or I don't know, we remove just the body shadows, but then you have flying hands. It's not an easy topic. Of course, there are possible tricks to avoid um, be this kind of glitchy behaviors, but at the moment, like, um, it's a bit too complex thing to take into hand and find workarounds, and there is really no simple solution. We tried to do something about that a couple times, but with no success, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, that's not something we ended up having a solution for the moment.
Okay. The question came up about PlayStation 5 release, and right now, as far as we know, it could be could be weeks, could be months, right?
I mean, I I think there is a Gaussian curve of probability. Like, it can, like, maybe PlayStation tomorrow will says we changed our mind, we don't want this game, but it's like 0.01% possibility to that to happen. And there is the possibility that we send them a new build, we're gonna do it just after this call, and tomorrow they might, or this week they might start checking it and they might approve it, and there is a decent chance of that to happen. I think that we are very close to have the game approved, but I have no idea to know when they are gonna be happy with the version of the game, or how many times they're gonna ask us to change it. Um, Again, that's for the best. The kind of changes they ask are indeed quality changes. I mentioned some kind of stuff they asked us to change previously, but sometimes it's about, I don't know, terminology for PlayStation in various languages, so it affects better localizations or better UIs, better PlayStation Network implementation. In the end, when they ask some improvements, it's for a better game. So even when a bad case scenario happens, so they reject the game, in the end is to have a bit better version for PlayStation. So
Okay.
finger crossed, when they are gonna prove it, it means that they feel like the game is quality enough to be in the console.
Alrighty.
But
So,
as I was saying
hmm,
before, I have literally a build running right now, five, no, I don't know, 20 centimeter from my microphone. Runs super well in my opinion. Really can't wait for it to be ready on PlayStation.
okay. So just these are two questions that I think we've already answered before, but just to answer them again, and I guess this will be our final two, is are you going to be reworking the planes? And is there any plans to rework any of the maps or any of the campaigns right now that you're working on reworking? Because I feel like
Okay,
they
so
comes up a lot, these two questions, I guess.
okay, so we already reworked some planes like the BF-109 and the Zero plane. We want to rework some other planes like the Stuka or the um, I don't know, the B fighter, because they are less quality than other planes. We are not gonna rework all planes. Some of our planes are amazing, especially the recent one we added, but
Uh,
not just those.
Excuse me, Marco, but I mean, I
Uh,
think it means like plane systems, how the planes work, and
Sorry,
yeah, yeah.
I
Sorry.
didn't see the system. Um, so I'm talking about making like Battlefield games or maybe War Thunder. I mean the manual landing gear and ability to make. Okay, I completely lost the second part of the question.
Yeah.
Sorry. An ability to make spinning in the sky, etc. Well, you can spin in the sky if you, maybe this user might be happy to hear that it can change the driving system in pulse setting, and add and for example switch to simulation systems where you can drive the plane either with mouse or keyboard, and then you can do any kind of maneuver you want. Landing gear currently is driven by flying slow and close to the ground. That's mostly because two reasons. One is the fact that, as said before, the game is mostly about having a game that has many realistic features, but that is simple to access. You can do a lot of stuff, but with a few key presses possible, and that's important, especially for gamepad users, which really have not many gamepad keys to play with, and we really have to have economy with that. Maybe for PC player, and at some point it's gonna come a specific key to open gears and to, I don't know, maybe do more controls on planes. Generally, we have been doing some improvements on planes recently, especially on physics and stalling of them. More changes, I hope, we'll have the fine uh, to make. Though at the moment we have really so busy on a lot of stuff that there is not um, specific planning about that. I believe that our roadmap generally tells what we are doing, and anything else is usually the answer. I notice I'm giving a lot into this call is well, if something is realistic and the game can fit it, we are gonna do it. If something improves the games, I mean, we're gonna do it. Sorry, I mean, we are gonna do it if we have the time to. At some point, we have a
Yeah.
order of priority in the end because there's infinite kind of things we can do, and the only thing we can decide is the order we're
Right.
gonna do on something.
Right.
So if something is realistic, is a good system or something, I'm not against working into that. But the question sometimes is more like, can this come soon, or do you have more priorities? And usually our priorities is here exactly our roadmap, which answer the second question: are you gonna rework maps? Yes, Rain and Nancy are gonna be reworked just after Sino Japanese DLCs.
Okay. So that's what the main thing is. So anything else is not happening right now.
Is less likely to happen in the short time.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stuff we end up doing, even if it's not on the roadmap, because there is time to do, or we didn't think about putting it in the roadmap, or we have a chance to do it for some reason. But mostly the roadmap is what we are doing right now, at least.
Okay. All right. So I think that answers the questions. And then as always, the default answer for everything else for like, are you going to make this weapon? Are you going to add this vehicle? Is go to the Discord, and there is a section for suggestions and ideas and all that stuff, and that's where you want to go. And I think you said that you vote on different things, right? You do polls in there.
Yeah, we do polls about both feature to add, next campaign to work on, and sometimes even kind specific faction or weapons or vehicles to add. Usually, actually, for smaller stuff like vehicles or weapons, if someone suggests something that is really required and many people agree with that, someone from the team notice it quite quickly, and if it's convenient to make, we just make it. For bigger stuff, we tend to do polls or try to understand what players want, a bit, with a bit more statistics system like polls.
Gotcha. Okay, so finally wrapping up here, we do not have a date yet for the DLC release, correct, Marco?
No, not a date yet, but we don't have a date yet, but probably in a month from now it's gonna be out. Worst case scenario is 5 or 6 weeks, but maybe it's just 3 or 4.
Okay, and as soon as you have a date, you're gonna let me know, and we will do a live stream on release day, right?
We can probably do a live stream or release date. Yes. I don't know what times and what day it will be, so it's hard to be 100% sure. But if there is the possibility, I'd like to live stream a match
I will
of
stay
the
up at
DLC.
3 in the morning, and we will do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
I'll do my best to definitely showcase it in the best way possible. And if you are here to help with that, Endo, I'm gonna definitely appreciate that.
okay. Is there anything else you want to say before we show the teaser that you put on Instagram? And we'll end with that. But do you have anything else to say before we show the teaser?
Well, I want to say that this time I'm very glad to see a lot of interesting questions. Um, Hopefully, this is a format we can start doing more frequently, and this can find its own way to work periodically and become a good way to speak directly with the players, because definitely I tend not to find correct time to speak by voice with them and have the time to analyze and explain stuff very deeply. So very glad to do this format. Hope the player are liking it as much as I do. But yeah, thank you everyone for being here and being so passionate about the project. It's really amazing, and it's what makes me and everyone in the team keep doing this. So thank you so much for real, guys.
And thank you, Marco, for coming onto this little tiny channel and sharing all of this stuff with me and the folks.
No, thanks to you, and it's a big opportunity for me. Really, I have zero YouTube handling skills, and this is a great.
You just like the
place
little
to-
animated face, right? Is that it? You like the little animated face?
I love them. Yeah, it's a really.
I
super
spent
cool
hours on
feature.
that.
I can definitely tell that is black magic to me. I mean, I had zero idea if I have to do something like that. I would have zero idea where to start. So
You know what's bad? If I
really,
accidentally delete it, I won't know how to make it again because I don't know how I did this. So I got to make sure the computer
Okay.
doesn't crash.
yeah, let's back up it then.
All right, so here it goes. We're going to show you the teaser. I put the music on, so if you hate the music, it's my fault. It's not Marcos's fault. And it is kind of a Instagram vertical video. We apologize, but I guess there's no official trailer yet. Is that being worked on?
Yeah, very soon, because we have been doing a lot of changes on some weapons and uniforms. This teaser is already gonna show some stuff that have been already fixed or improved. So we want to show stuff when we have stuff that is 100% correct to show. Some of the stuff we have to change are very small stuff, like just improving the historical accuracy of some vest or uniforms. But until we are not perfect on that, we are not gonna start even recording anything.
All right.
So
All
yeah,
right.
don't take the teaser as final content, because it's not.
All right. So thank you all for watching. If you want to subscribe to the channel, please do so. That would help a lot. And Marco and I will try to do these as often as we can. It's always good when he's got some new features to show off or something like that. We'd also like, I've been trying to talk to Fuse, but it's my fault. Start showcasing maybe some mods or some maps during these so people can get some spotlight on their creations. So that's something that we want to do. And we also want to play the game with you guys. So that's something we want to do as well.
Yeah, we have this idea. I think it can be cool. Maybe it can be a way to show the DLC or whatever. But yeah, it can be very, very cool to have a big session with many players and stream some of that together. As I was saying, I don't spend too much time on live social. I mostly write text on the Discord or email or whatever. But I really love interacting with the community, and Endo, I think, can help so much with that. So I'm very appreciated.
All righty. You're welcome. All right. So here's the teaser. Again, thank you for joining us. And we will see you as soon as we will see you, which will probably be, I'm guessing, for the release of the DLC. But I don't know for sure. It might be before that if it's delayed. So we shall see. So here's a teaser. Say goodbye, Marco.
Goodbye, guys. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you. Here you go. Enjoy.